You think you know the Conjuring last rites. You think you know the terrifying tale of the Smurl family, their haunted home, the cursed mirror, and the Warrens swooping in to save the day. But here's the shocking truth. The real story is far darker, way more complicated, and the Warrens weren't even the ones who ended the nightmare. Welcome back to your nerdy show. I'm your host, Spoiler Master. So tonight, we're diving into the real Smurl haunting. What really happened inside that West Pittston duplex? Did the Warrens actually help, or did the movie just make them look like heroes? And, most importantly, where is the Smurl family now? Stick around, because the true story will leave you questioning whether evil was really ever banished, or if it just found another way to hide.
Something's changed.
The movie versus reality. The Conjuring franchise has always played a delicate game, based on true events, but twisted into something bigger, darker, and more cinematic. The Conjuring Last Rites is no different. It gives us cursed mirrors, Judy Warren visions, and a climactic showdown that feels tailor-made for Hollywood. But here's what the movie doesn't tell you. The real Smurl haunting stretched over more than a decade. It wasn't a matter of weeks or months. This family lived through strange noises, phantom smells, violent attacks, and even sexual assaults year after year, long before the Warrens ever set foot in their home. In fact, when the Smurls first moved into that duplex in West Pittston, Pennsylvania in 1973, they had no idea they were walking into a nightmare that wouldn't truly end until the late 1980s. The first signs of something dark. The Smurls claimed the activity began small, strange noises, doors opening and closing by themselves, lights flickering on and off, classic haunted house stuff. But one night in April 1985, things escalated. Janet Smurl was helping her daughter Heather prepare for her confirmation. Out of nowhere, a heavy ceiling light fixture crashed down onto the kitchen table. It didn't swing, didn't wobble, it just dropped hard. It injured her daughter Shannon and gouged the refrigerator. That was the moment Janet knew something sinister was at work. Over time, the family reported even darker activity. Closet doors opening and slamming by themselves, knocking and banging sounds, always in threes, horrible odors filling the house, sometimes like rotting flesh, a looming black shadow drifting around bedrooms at night. And then came the violent attacks. Bed shaking, the Smurls levitating, Janet being yanked out of bed, their German Shepherd being slammed into a wall. And Jack Smurl? He claimed he was sexually assaulted by what Lorraine Warren later called a succubus. Imagine the horror of not even being safe in your own bed. The Warrens enter the story. Now, in the movie, Ed and Lorraine Warren are dragged reluctantly out of retirement after Judy gets mixed up in the haunting. In reality, that's not how it went down. The Smurls first went to their local priest for help. He blessed the home, but admitted there wasn't much else he could do. When that failed, the Smurls reached out directly to the Warrens. By this time, in the 1980s, Ed and Lorraine were already infamous from their involvement in cases like Amityville. So, when the Smurls called, the Warrens came. Lorraine claimed she immediately sensed 4 entities in the house, 3 human spirits and 1 demonic presence. Ed described being thrown back by an invisible force during a prayer session. The Warrens documented the family's claims and even went to the press, desperate to get the Catholic Church to take the case seriously. The media frenzy. By the mid-1980s, the Smurl haunting wasn't just a local curiosity, it was national news. The family appeared on talk shows like Larry King Live. Newspapers swarmed the story. Even skeptics couldn't ignore the sheer volume of claims. The Wilkes-Barre Times leader wrote about the foul smells, pig-like grunts, and violent attacks the family described. Some neighbors claimed to have heard screams and noises from the house too. But skeptics also lined up to call the Smurls liars. Some thought it was all stress-related. Others believed it was a ploy for fame. And, of course, critics pointed out that many of the Warrens' cases had never been proven. Still, the Smurls stuck to their story. They weren't chasing fame. They were just a Catholic family desperate for peace in their own home. The darkest attacks. Here's where the real story gets even creepier than the movie. Both Jack and Janet claimed to have been physically assaulted. Janet said she was molested in her sleep. Jack described being raped by a demonic entity. According to him, the attacks were so real and so terrifying that they left him shaken for years. At one point, Janet claimed she was even lifted and hurled across the room by an unseen force. Whether you believe in the paranormal or not, the Smurls were clearly living through something that left them traumatized and desperate. Exorcisms that failed. The Warrens did what they always did. Prayers, holy water, religious relics, but nothing worked. They begged the Catholic Church to step in. Ed even held a press conference, saying, "You cannot even imagine what has gone on in this home." Eventually, after enough media pressure, Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, yes, the man who would later become Pope Benedict XVI, authorized an exorcist to visit the Smurls' home. But here's the kicker. Reports say 3 separate exorcisms were attempted. None of them worked. The activity always came back. So much for the Conjuring last rites showing the Warrens as the ultimate saviors. In truth, their involvement didn't end the nightmare at all. Who actually ended the haunting? According to reports, it wasn't Ed and Lorraine Warren who freed the Smurls from their torment. It was a local priest, Reverend Joseph Adonisio. In 1986, he didn't perform a full formal exorcism. Instead, he used what he described as intense prayer. Somehow, that was enough to quiet the evil inside the house. The Smurls still reported small things afterward. Knocks, shadows, but nothing like the violence they'd lived with for years. So when the movie credits roll and the Warrens walk away as heroes, the truth is, they didn't finish this fight. Someone else did. What happened to the house? The infamous West Pittston house is still standing. After the Smurls moved out in 1988, the new owners struggled to rent it out, because who wants to live in the haunted duplex? Eventually, tenants did move in, but they claimed they never experienced anything strange. Some thought the whole haunting had been exaggerated, but maybe the evil had already run its course, or maybe it was just lying dormant, waiting. Where the Smurl family is now. So what happened to the Smurls themselves? Jack Smurl went on to live a quiet life after his family story made headlines. He worked for the Topps Chewing Gum Company for over 30 years, stayed active in his church, and tried to move past the trauma. Sadly, he passed away in 2017 at the age of 75. Janet Smurl is still alive, living in Pennsylvania. She remains a believer in the paranormal and has spoken occasionally about the haunting. Their daughters went on to live private lives. Heather became a teacher and a mother of 2. Dawn raised her son, Mark Glowinski II, who, believe it or not, became an NFL player, lining up for the Seahawks, Giants, and Colts. Shannon works in health and still has an interest in paranormal investigation. The family may have moved on, but the haunting shaped the rest of their lives. The truth about the Warrens. So, here's the million-dollar question. Did the Warrens really end the paranormal activity? No, not even close. They documented it, they prayed, they tried, but the attacks continued until Reverend Adonisio finally brought peace with his prayers. But here's the twist. The Warrens' involvement turned the Smurl haunting into legend. Without them, the story might have stayed a forgotten local ghost tale. Instead, it became the inspiration for The Conjuring, Last Rites. Whether you see them as frauds, heroes, or something in between, Ed and Lorraine Warren knew how to make sure no one ever forgot the name Smurl. Our nerdy thoughts. The Smurl haunting is one of the darkest chapters in the Warrens' case files, and maybe the most misunderstood. The movie gave us demons and mirrors and cinematic terror. The truth gave us a family tormented for over a decade, priests who couldn't help, exorcisms that failed, and a demon that refused to leave. Even now, decades later, the story of the Smurls still chills us because it raises the question, if this could happen to an ordinary church-going family in small-town Pennsylvania, could it happen to anyone? And maybe most haunting of all, what if the evil never really left at all?